Hello and welcome back to another weekly update video. My name's Keith and this is Open Book Outdoors. In today's video, we're going to be asking the question, why is this book booty cheeks? We're going to be asking the question, should you ever read the book of someone who asks you to read their book? And we'll also be looking at a few books I've been reading and a very special gift from my wife for my birthday. So without further ado, let's get into it. First on the list, as I said, we're going to be asking, why is this book booty cheeks? And what I mean is this book is not good, in my opinion. And it's not good in the worst way. Unfortunately, it waited until I was about 80% through with it to let me know that it was actually just a bad book. This is Peter Straub's Lost Boy, Lost Girl. And honestly, this book kind of ticked me off. It gave me I don't know about fun. It gave me an interesting setup. A boy's mom kills herself, and we don't know why. It seems to be completely out of the blue. The boy's uncle, who is a novelist, is not called in, but just comes to the funeral and meets with the boy, Mark, and, just gets to know the situation, and, he goes back home. And then Mark, the son, begins to be obsessed with the house that's directly on the backside of his house, where his mother killed herself. And there's this plot of there was a serial killer who was in this town a long time ago, and it turns out that the mom was cousins with this serial killer, and he lived in the house behind them, and no one really knew that, and blah, 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 blah. Suffice it to say that, the whole serial killer thing, there's also an active serial killer right now in the present that's picking up boys. So it makes you think like, ooh, maybe they never caught the real serial killer, or maybe there's some sort of connection where the mother was involved, and we're going to uncover this plot. The boy, Mark, goes into the house that he's been obsessed with and discovers a bunch of secret compartments and secret passages that the cops never found when they arrested his, second cousin or whoever that serial killer turned out to be. And you're thinking like, oh, well, maybe we're going to learn why the mom killed herself, and maybe we're going to get some answers. Maybe we're going to find evidence that this new kid, nothing. You don't get any satisfaction from that. And at the very close to the end, we have Mark's disappearance, the boy who's been obsessed with everything. He also disappears. But it's made clear through the novel that he wasn't murdered. He didn't run away. He didn't kill himself. He just vanished. He met a spirit or some sort of projection of the serial killer's daughter, whom he tortured in this house while he was in the house, and he had sex with her a lot as a ghost, and then somehow he just left the human plane and went on with this ghost person. And if you're thinking this sounds dumb, it is. It is dumb. This was really bad. And it was very frustrating because it was the last book I read for spooky season. I thought it was going to be a good one. And then I get all the way to the end. And I'm like, is this really how this book is going to end? And I don't like spoiling books, but I'll spoil this one for you. It's not worth reading. The language is, good. But other than that, this book is not worth reading, and I'm upset I spent my money on it. Let me know if there are any books that waited till almost the end to tell you that they were bad, like this one did. But let's move along. The next question that I teased at the beginning was, should you ever read a book when someone asks you to read a book? And I think this will probably be the last time that I do this, unless the situation becomes very specific and safe. This book is Brothers in the Night by Michael Mulcahy, who I'm pronouncing his name properly. I don't know if he watches my YouTube videos, and that would make me feel safer if he doesn't. Not that this book is bad, but whenever I know that a book has been written like it's someone's first book, my critical eye becomes much more keen, and it frustrates me because I find it difficult to read this book without picking apart every little thing, even more so I feel like than I would on maybe not. I don't really know. I don't feel comfortable reading the book because I feel attached to it. Like I feel like I should like it. This person has, we have a very uh, acquaintance like relationship on TikTok. And he was like, "Hey, you want to try reading my book?" And I said, "Sure, like I'm interested in the vibes, but I don't feel safe criticizing it because I think it's an amazing feat that someone wrote a book. And I don't like the idea of saying, like, hey, dude, there's a lot of issues that I find with this book early on. And I even, ran them past my wife, some of the stuff. It's mostly style and grammar and like writing style. It has nothing to do with the story, which is the issue. It's like having a beautiful sports car, but like it backfires every now and again, and it doesn't shift all the way into second. I don't know. Like it's probably a good story, but just the presentation for me is really slowing me down. But I ran some of that stuff past my wife, and she said, like, what you're describing doesn't really even jump out to me as an issue. So maybe you're just being overly critical because this person's is their first book and yada yada yada. And I think that's the case. So the answer to the question, should you read a book if a friend or an acquaintance asks you to read it? You have to answer that yourself. For me, I think I'm going to stop doing that just because it makes me feel so uncomfortable, just in case I have a negative thing. But I am going to make myself read this, and that sounds negative. It's just I have to like really actively, always, constantly, with every sentence, turn off my negative brain. And I don't like doing that because it's exhausting. But I think, Michael is nice. He sent me his book, and I'm sure there's a good story in here. So I really need to try to read it. But anyway, that's another update about this book. Now let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into the happy feelies. This is not a happy book. Let's get into the why I love reading. Let's get into the positive reading stuff. Positive reading thing number A, letter 1. I read Foster by Claire Keegan, who is becoming one of my favorite little artists. And I don't know why I said little. I think it's because both the books I've read of hers are small. This is a novella. Hard to argue this is a novel. It's 90 pages, and the print is huge. Look at this. Look how big them words is. So it'll took me all of like 5 minutes to read this book. But Foster is the story of a girl who is the child of some very impoverished people who currently have another baby on the way, and she, for the summer, is allowed to go live with the Kinsellas, who are just, I guess, some neighbors, some people that have expressed interest in fostering a child. And so she gets to go live for the summer with this family. And it becomes very evident that her time at her own home is very difficult, very stressful, causing her to be a bedwetter, causing her to never really feel comfortable. And immediately upon entering the home of the Kinsellas, she is given all the things that she doesn't have at home. They buy her new clothes. They allow her to feel comfortable. They, listen to her, let her help with things, that kind of stuff. And it's a very short story with a very meaningful message, I think, about the power of kindness, the power of giving when you have something to give. I don't look at it as an indictment on the way the biological family operates, even though they aren't in the greatest situation. I think the father's an alcoholic and the mother is overworked, and I think there's things they could do to fix their family. But the focus for me really is on the kindness that the Kinsella family shows to our young girl, and the way that completely changes her outlook on life, how it reduces her stress, how it turns her into just a well-adjusted young woman. And over just a summer, how quickly the balm of kindness can soothe the rash of poverty, I guess. But this book was very good. Highly recommend you read it. It is well worth the read. I have not spoiled it for you. There are a few plot elements in here, but mainly, again, just the power of loving your fellow man. and the power that a person has whenever they have a little bit extra to give. Someone like myself, I'm very blessed, very grateful that Lizzie and our family has some extra that we can give and serve and help others with, and just how much good that can do, even though you don't necessarily think it can. So Foster by Claire Keegan, very good. Congratulations, you have reached the Cormac McCarthy section of this video. Somebody on YouTube tried telling me Cormac is an Irish name, so it's actually Cormac. If that's the case, please let me know. But my response to that person was, I've never heard it said that way. What is it with people? What is it with people where like, actually, he's an American. Cormac McCarthy was an American. I've never heard anyone say Cormac McCarthy. I'm Cormac McCarthy. Like, maybe in Ireland, I don't know, but he was an American. He was an American writer, and I'm pretty sure his name was pronounced Cormac. Just like Cormac McLaggen in Harry Potter. But anyway, you've reached the Cormac McCarthy section of this video. Cormac McCarthy point number 1. Suttree is hard to get into. I have been told in my Cormac McCarthy video, which got a good many views for me, and I was very pleased. I'm glad people tuned in and decided to correct me and, check out my ranking. But I've got a lot of comments that said, hey, listen, Suttree is his masterpiece. Blood Meridian, no. The Road, no. Suttree is his piece de résistance. And so far, it is very McCarthy. It is very, you really have to pay attention to those words. I was telling Lizzie last night that I finally got into some character interaction where some plot stuff is happening, because it seems like every book you read from Cormac McCarthy, he has to introduce his first character over the first, several pages, and the biggest character in a lot of his books is the setting, just the, where it takes place, and of course the bleakness of that place, because it's always taking place somewhere bleak. But he takes a long time setting you up. But now I'm following Suttree and Harrogate, and they're in prison, and I'm excited to see what goes on in this book. I can't tell you much else about it, except I do love this author. And after having read a bunch of horror books over October, which those books, a horror book I think is intentionally written to where the barrier to you understanding what's going on is very low, because if you don't understand that you're being jump scared or something, then you can't be jump scared. So I think horror books are written sort of with an ease of reading in mind. But being out of that now and going straight into Suttree, tough, T-U-F-F, tough. So I got to get my Cormac McCarthy brain on. But as soon as it activates, I think I'll really enjoy this book. Really excited to see where it goes. Which brings me to really excited to see something else. Let me show you. My wife took away my Folio Society virginity. I follow the Folio Society on Instagram. They make really cool editions of really cool books. And my wife, hopefully you can see that, hopefully there's no glare, but my wife got me The Road, again by Cormac McCarthy. This is my 3rd copy of the book, and it's a really cool edition from Folio Society. You have the overturned car, you have fire there, you have, of course, the bleakness of the landscape as the boy and the man make their way to the coast. You even have the shopping cart overturned right there, which I don't know if you can see. But one thing I didn't know was a part of this edition is the illustrations that are available in this edition. So let me show you one. So this is the scene where the boy and the man, hopefully here, I'll try to turn it in such a way that there's no glare, but this is the scene where the boy and the man look to be in the underground bunker where they get to stay for a long time and have some food and relax a little bit. There are 7 or 8 illustrations in this copy, so very happy with it, very grateful my wife got it for me, and I'm excited to read it. I think I'll be reading it again soon. I haven't done a reread in a while, so still my favorite book technically. I don't know what's going to make that change, or if I'll have to transfer to a new favorite author, but right now, just the way Cormac McCarthy's books make me feel and make me think. it's just special. No other book has made me spend like 3 days on a 9-hour YouTube video from some random dude explaining the book like I did with Blood Meridian. Very, very good book. So yeah, that's the reading stuff for this week. I'll share with you any other thing that you might like to know. It's finally getting cool here in where I live. So really, South Carolina. Really excited to do some more camping. I've been playing some video games, not a whole lot of them. I used to play games like hours and hours every day whenever I was streaming, but they've just kind of lost a lot of their luster for me. I have been playing the new Battlefield. I booted up Ghost of Yotei this morning to try to see if I could reignite my love for the single-player game. But yeah, that's about it. Tell me what you've been up to. If you've made it this far in the video, give me a hidey-ho, chap, in the comments. I like making these. I don't know if you like watching them. It's kind of clear that nobody really watches them. But for those of you who do, and you watch and you comment, I care about you. Let me know what you want me to do with these. Is there something you want me to do more of, less of? Have I talked too much, talked too little? I would love some feedback. So please give me feedback. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.